Hello and welcome to the Corporate Escapists TV show. I am your host, Christine Innes, and I'm really excited this beautiful, adorable lady, Katrena, is joining me again here in the hot seat. She is an incredible author, international speaker, a trainer, and a business coach. And I just loved our conversation last time, so I had to have you back on the show. So thank you so much for joining me.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And I think our last conversation, there was just so much that, we couldn't fit into, the 20, 30 minutes that we allocated. And afterwards, and we've kept in contact, and I thought, there's so much that's happened, obviously, in your transition from leaving corporate to going into business for yourself. And I think one of the biggest things, and I think we both agree, is how to show up authentic and how to actually be yourself so that you can, really sell yourself in business. I think that, it's hard. Do you agree? Like sometimes people want to be something that they're not, or trying to portray, this different persona, which is really not in that sort of authenticness of, being themselves.
Yeah, there's a number of things that are going on. I think one of the greatest things that I saw in the very early days of social media was that you may as well be yourself because everybody else is taken. And I remember seeing that for the very first time some 20, 25 years ago, and remember thinking, it just really resonated with me, that idea of being yourself because everybody else is taken really allowed me to just accept who I was, accept that I'm quirky and unusual, and that's actually a good thing, not a bad thing. Who wants to be vanilla? Nobody likes vanilla in the bedroom, so why would they want it out in their business lives? So that's the other thing, is just loving yourself enough to be your authentic self, and understanding that the world loves uniqueness. Our brains are sort of configured to notice uniqueness and differences outside of the standard pattern. So the reason people, particularly, let's say in the music industry, that do well are the quirky ones, because you just don't want everyone singing the same song in the exact same way. Every single song, even if it was the same song, is sung in a different way, and that's what makes these music stars really take off, is their uniqueness. And so it's the exact same in business, in that we don't want all the same business coaches and all the same business mentors and all the same teachers. We want difference, and that's how you find your tribe, and that's how you create your community, is those that are attracted to that energy and the uniqueness of who you are and what you provide in the way you provide it. And that's what I like to do, is build people's brands around them and their unique expression in the world.
And I love that so much. I think, when you set yourself apart and you show up yourself, it's effortless to start off with, because it takes a lot when you're trying to show up as somebody else. And, I can relate, especially being, when back in the corporate world, I was trying to pretend to sort of be somebody that I really wasn't. But like you said, your uniqueness is going to attract those clients. They're going to attract your tribe of people that are drawn to you. And that is sort of like, I call it like their sweet spot. That's what you want, that people are going to be drawn to you because it is a little bit more effortless in the work that you do in bringing them in.
Yeah, there's this body of work that I really like called Family Constellations. And it's around, where is your energy effortless and where is your energy being dragged around? And if you are pretending to be somebody you're not, well, you attract people that are pretending to be somebody that they're not. And so you end up building a tribe of all these fake people that really are not aligned to your soul at all and your energy at all. And so you'll end up being miserable. So it's really interesting that the closer you are to your true self, the more effortless and flowy your life is. And then the more effortless you attract your customer, and the more effortlessly you close sales, and people just buy there and then because they just resonate with you and your true self. So yeah, creating a fake business is only going to take you so far, and it's like a house of cards as far as I can see. Over the last 20 years, I've watched people, build things that are not true to who they are. They end up being really miserable. They end up having yucky customers that they don't like serving. And it's a house of cards. It just falls down pretty quickly. Whereas if you build an authentic business around who you are authentically, and your brand represents that, then it should be pretty effortless and you should be in flow.
Mm. And I think the biggest thing is that, when you transition, and whether it's leaving the corporate or, from being a mum and that, and you're going into business for yourself, there is so much you need to learn about yourself. So I just really want to point out to people that it is like an evolution. Like you are going to constantly change. And do you believe that, as you change, you also need to make sure that your brand and your business changes as well with you?
Oh gosh, my businesses have evolved and evolved and evolved. And what you build on day one is not what you'll be talking about or delivering on day 500 or day 1000. The whole point of business is actually to stop perfectionism disease and focus on continuous improvement, because there's no such thing as a perfect brand. The brand is just continuously improved, and you become more and more aligned with your message. You get quicker and it becomes simpler, and everything becomes more elegant as you get to know who you are and who you are specifically in business, not who you were as an employee. Because as an employee, you're institutionalized to a certain degree, and being institutionalized means it's only that aspect of who you are. Whereas in business, it opens you up to a more of who you are, and it'll trigger you more, you learn more, you evolve more, you evolve quicker because you have to survive. And so, yeah, you stop being institutionalized and you stop being that part of who you are, and you start being more of who you are in business. And so your business will evolve as you do, and so will your brand naturally.
Mm. There's so much I want to break down just there. But first of all, you're a woman after my own heart when you said, get rid of the perfectionism, because the first thing I ever did was actually remove the word perfection from my vocabulary, because it's unattainable. There's no real such thing, because as human beings, we constantly evolve. We're constantly learning and growing. And, if you look on social media and you think, oh, their life is perfect, just think of how many photos that they've probably had to take to start off with to get that one perfect shot. So that is, yeah, as I said, a woman after my own heart for that, because it's something that I completely agree with. And, as you said, people growing with their brand and perfecting it, because I've noticed that, in my business that, I started off in one direction, I've moved to a different direction, and I'm probably going to move to another one. And I just think that it's really reassuring for somebody listening that, you've been in business for quite a while, and that's okay. And I just want people to know that if you decide that you're going to do one thing, like start at point A and you end up at point S or T or whatever, it's perfectly okay. Like I don't believe there's one pathway when you go into business.
Absolutely not. It will evolve, and you'll get better and better at serving your community and serving the people that you want to work with and that are resonating with you. And business, even if we just take technology over the last 20 years, that's evolved. So what I had access to 20 years ago and what I have access to now is completely different. So one of the things that I like to teach my clients is really to stay up to date on technology, because that's something that's really going to help you propel your business and make your business more efficient and effective. And if you ever lose a trick and you become uncommercial with your technology knowledge, you're going to be stuffed in today's world. So one of the focuses in business that you can make, and one of those commitments you can make, is really staying up to date as best as you can on technology and technological advances, because oh gosh, I have seen it all start from nothing, and I've seen what it's become today. And the technology I'm able to use and introduce to my clients is fantastic. And I remember when websites first started, and they were like hundreds and hundreds and thousands of dollars to build a website. So small businesses just didn't have them. And then they came down to sort of, we were paying 20 and 30,000, thinking that was a good deal. And then they came down to, 5,000, 10,000. And now you can have a website for $200, $300 a year. It's amazing. So if I was not a part of that evolution, I wouldn't know what to offer my clients around websites or social media or systems and processes. So yeah, just stay up to date. Keep your eye on the ball, but don't get bogged down in everything. Just pick your favorite mediums and stay focused on those mediums. And then business evolves, and so will your business and your brands. You know, what was cool in the 80s wasn't cool in the 90s, and what was cool in the 90s wasn't cool in the noughties, and now we're in 2020. And so what's going to be the brand colors that are fashionable? What is going to be the look and the feel that is fashionable? Try and steer clear of necessarily what's fashionable. Work out what represents you the best. What's the best shop front for you? And just bear in mind, you want to be fashionable, but you don't want to not represent who you are and the quirks and the uniqueness around you. So for example, I use the green grass in my Refresh Your Thinking, and I'm still happy with that. And that's stood the test of time. It's a real sort of classic look. It's attractive to men and women because it's green. Whereas a lot of women who are going after women are going with those female colours. And, corporate always was sort of those navies. And it just is so weird. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Just make sure you look fresh and up to date.
And it's so true. I mean, I remember my first website, which I put together myself. And then I was very fortunate that my girlfriend, she goes, look, I'm starting my website business. I'm going to do your website for free. And I thought, oh my goodness, score. Thank you so much. And she's amazing. I'm actually going to drop her details down below because she did a fantastic job. But, in keeping in line, one of the things she said to me, she goes, Christine, your website does not reflect you. Like it's your girly, you need to inject that into your website. And so there was like this splash of pink and flowers and stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, that is me. I do like all that sort of stuff. And so it is very true, because when people look at your website, if they haven't met you first and they look at your website, or they look at on Facebook or social media, it needs to match. And somebody once said to me that, the biggest compliment they ever received was they've been following them on social media, and when they met in person, like going, you're exactly the same. And that's what I feel that's what people need to make sure that they come across, because that's all in line with being authentic. Your brand, how you speak, how you talk, your language, even just your language of what you use in your posts. I call everyone lovely, so that's how I address my emails.
The word is congruent. So in psychology, we use the word congruent because we want your brand to be congruent with the person that they meet. We want your pictures and your website and everything that represents who you are in your shop front has to be congruent with who you are. There's nothing worse than a mismatch, and you lose a lot of business when there's a bit of a mismatch. And that's the problem with taking hundreds of photographs on social media and trying to be perfect. with filters and lighting and all of this sort of stuff is because by the time people meet you, they go, oh, that's nothing like the person I see on the internet. They want to, it should match and it should be congruent. And I still get that compliment today, even though I'm over 50 now. The photos match the curtains match the drapes, and you really want that. You don't want to be so photoshopped that it's just not who you are anymore. And I'm very concerned about what the girls are doing today with their Botox and their fillers and their hair extensions and all these sort of things. You've got to maintain that so that by the time people meet you in person, that's all got to match, and it's got to be who you actually are. And so the whole influencer market is really bothering me at the moment because it's all about fakery. And I prefer, and I can't wait to see females come back around to natural again, and what you see is what you get.
What came to me as you were talking, I'm like, anybody gets anything, just picture it's like an online dating profile, so that if you put your photo up and you go to meet somebody, yes, like you want it to be that same.
Exactly the same principle, yeah. And you will meet people in real life. And that's the whole point of my business, is getting people out to meet the real people in real life. And so when you do that, you want to make sure that you're not catfishing people, and the vibe of your social media presence is the exact same vibe as what they get in real life. So, when you meet me, I'm no different down at the pub with my mates as I am here talking with you. It's all the same. It's all congruent, and what you see is what you get, and the curtains match the drapes. And that's what it is about, being comfortable with who you are. You don't have to hide who you are. You don't have to hide the raw bits of who you are. I swear a lot. That's sort of part of my brand, and people find that refreshing, because what you see is what you get, and it repels the people I don't like, who don't like swearing, because those that don't like swearing tend to have a stick up their ass. And so when people with sticks up their ass are not going to enjoy who I am, because I'm very, what you see is what you get. And I'm trying to teach people how to drop into their bodies and be who they are, and not be ashamed of the rough edges. In fact, the rough edges are the fun bits.
And I drop the F-bomb every now and then, and I did a Facebook Live. I'm like, going, oops, there it is, but that's how I am, exactly the same, and I think that from me stripping back those layers of going from being in corporate, and then, obviously have to go on a bit of a journey to find out who I was, it was getting rid of, like you said, that stick up your butt, because it was allowing me to be relaxed and more natural, and not having to feel like I had to be so prim and proper all the time. And what would you say to people out there that are going into business for themselves, and it's about doing some sort of like reflection exercise on them? What could they do to be able to have a look at what they're projecting out there to really who they are, and see where that disconnect, or if there is a disconnect there with them?
Well, in business and in the corporate world where we were, businesses always did a SWOT analysis. And what I get to people to do, the first exercise I get people to do with me, is a SWOT analysis on themselves. And so what I'm looking for when they're doing that exercise with me is to see how self-aware are they. And so we look at their strengths, and some people coming out of corporate, their spirit has been bashed out of them. And so it's very hard to list your strengths. So it sometimes takes a little while to warm up to saying great things about yourself. So we do that. We do the strengths, and we draw that out, and we start to say things about ourselves that we've never dared say out loud before, about how great we are. and, you know, what are our geniuses and what do we love doing and what are we good at? And then we move to weaknesses, and I get them to have a little look at, you know, what do they think they're going to struggle with, especially in their own business now that they're out of the institutionalization. And then once we've done weaknesses, I say, let's not just stop at weaknesses. Let's look at what your challenges are. So I don't just do a SWOT analysis, I do a SCOT analysis, because weaknesses will draw out a certain list, but challenges will draw out a little bit more juice. Then we look at all those opportunities to learn and grow. So list out all the opportunities. And then we look at really one threat, and that is keeping up with technology. That's the only one we have on that list, generally speaking, in business. We don't worry about things we can't control or influence. We only focus on things we can control, which is self, and we can influence, which is others, and just get really good at influencing others. So yeah, that SWOT analysis is probably a really great first exercise that everyone can do. All the listeners, get a piece of paper out and start listing out all your strengths, all your weaknesses and challenges, and then opportunities to learn and grow. And what are your gaps now that you're going into business or considering that? And that's a really great exercise just to see how far can we push it. And you can keep adding to it as well and update it every year, because what was a challenge for you last year won't be a challenge for you this year because you've learned it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really love that, because there's so much out there that we can do for free, and we can learn so much about ourselves. And one of the biggest things that after interviewing, you know, a few people now on the show, is that going on this sort of journey of becoming a business owner, you're going to learn so much more about yourself. And when you said before that, you know, the spirit is broken from coming out of corporate, sometimes that turns on a light inside that, you know, there's strengths that had been sort of suppressed so much in corporate because of the fact that they weren't allowed to shine as much. They weren't given the opportunity to sort of spread their wings and really show who they were. Now they can actually do that, because when, you know, it's your business, you've got to take that ownership, you've got to run with it, and, you know, really give yourself that permission to shine and to let people see that amazing person that you are.
And bring your soul back to life. So business is one of the best personal development courses you'll ever do. You'll learn more about yourself, your triggers, your concerns, your issues, your psychology, your limiting beliefs. You'll learn it all inside of the business. And that's why we do it, because we never get bored. There's always some next level that we can go to for ourselves and our own fulfillment. Whereas jobs, the reason that they suck the life out of us is that, one, we're not in control of our day. So that's one of the tricks to being happy, is actually you're more happy the more control you have over your day. And in business, you want to set yourself up so that you have a lot of control over your day. Otherwise, you will not be happy. And second of all, we want to explore the good, the bad, and the ugly. So you want to, in your job, you don't have the opportunity to explore the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the strengths and the weaknesses and development opportunities that you might have. Because jobs, what they want you to do is get to mastery and then stay there doing that thing that you're now good at. Whereas in business, we get good at something, then we can train others to do it for us, and we can then outsource it and then move on to something else. And we can continually evolve. Whereas JOBs and the corporate world is not set up for that sort of variety, change, and evolution. In fact, it drives them crazy to have people move from one job to another, constantly wanting development. Companies don't like that.
No.
They say they do, but they don't actually. It's a bother.
Yeah. And it is, look, I'm going to probably say this all incorrect, so please forgive me, but I remember back in the corporate world that we talked about, you know, being competent consciousness and all that sort of stuff and going through the levels. And it was like driving a car. Like when you first go and get your license, you sit in the car and you're watching everything and, you know, and then all of a sudden after you've been driving for a few years, you literally are on that sort of autopilot. And that's where they want you at. They want you on that autopilot that you're doing your job. And
Yes.
where it's
Then you get
completely
bored.
different. Yeah, when you're completely different in having your own business. So I think that's such a really great point that, you know, you're going to be able to master one area, but then there's going to be something else that you need to learn. And the growth that you will have personally, being in business for yourself, as you said, it's immeasurable because you're always learning every single day.
Yeah. And just when you think you're a social media expert, social media changes and something new happens. The new upcoming thing is TikTok. Now, none of us in business are really across TikTok yet, especially not in Australia. Well, that's the new upcoming thing. So how long will it take for all of us to sort of go and have a look at it, see what it is, how are people using it overseas, and how can we apply it here to business in Australia? It's ongoing. Just when we're trying to get Facebook sorted, TikTok arrives.
Well, that's
So it's
right.
really fascinating.
Yeah. And like algorithms change, like all this sort of stuff that you are constantly learning. And you hit on something really important, I think, is also about outsourcing. And I think as every business owner is that sometimes we want and we get used to the control because it's our baby and all that sort of stuff. But if you can put those systems and processes, if you think back to your corporate days and you had to follow a job specification and all that sort of stuff, do that for your business because that will change everything if you can outsource certain parts to it and free up your time to really focus on the stuff that you need to do, which is getting yourself out there and promote yourself.
Yeah, there's a couple of concerns, especially with business startups, is that they dream of having a virtual assistant straight away and they want everything outsourced straight away. As a business mentor, I just advise against that initially. In the first couple of years, I want you to design the processes and systems that are right for you, learn them so that you know how to teach them in the way you want it done. Whereas the other way round, you'll become the victim of people doing it wrongly. You don't know the back end. They might be doing it. They might not be doing it. You don't know. You're not across it. And you can lose a lot of time, money, and effort. And it can be very stressy when you don't know how to manage these assets that you've got. And so don't jump the gun and get a VA. Have, you really go and explore what is it that you want and what suits your business and what suits you, and then learn it yourself so you can teach others how you want it done.
And I think that's a great point. So I've only just hired a VA myself and I've given particular tasks. I guess in a way I'm fortunate from coming from a learning development background where I wrote like training. So, everything's laid out, dot pointed, screenshots, like all that sort of stuff.
Beautiful.
But
as success.
Yes, definitely. And I think as a business owner, anything that you do on a day-to-day, document it and actually write your process, because what will work today is probably going to change in a week or two. And then you, as you said, start to refine the process.
Yeah. You don't want your outsourced people to you be at their mercy. You want to be able to ask the right questions. You want to know what questions to ask. You want to know how to check people's work, and you want to know whether it's working or not and whether it's good value or not. A lot of people are so quick to just get rid of all the minutiae to people, and then you just don't know what's going on. So I think really respect minutiae and make sure that you've built your business on a really solid foundation rather than a house of cards.
Yeah, love that so much. So as we sort of wrap up, what would you say would be one piece of advice? So if somebody was coming to you and they've been in business, what would be maybe the most asked question that you get from a business owner?
Can I do it?
Wow.
So to me, it's self-belief. So what
Yeah.
most people, they dream of having a business, their heart's desire is to have a business, but deep down they don't believe they can have a business.
Mm,
And so people like us, Christine and I, are testament to, you know, we're the ones that actually took action and felt the fear and did it anyway. The
mm,
fear is normal, and to doubt yourself is normal. In fact, doubting yourself never, never, never ends. The day you don't doubt yourself anymore is the day you're an arrogant son of a bitch and nobody will like you anyway. So
it is so true.
become very, very good friends with self-doubt and
Yeah.
hold her hand when she's scared and, you know, take her through the process. But one of my big mantras that I say to all my clients is just feel the fear and then do
Mm,
it anyway. And
yeah.
after a while, your body gets used to it, knows you're going to do it anyway. So
Mm,
and that's how I started, and that's what I still do to this day. Is anything new, anything I don't know,
mm.
I go and just feel the fear and work it out, and the parachute is built on the way down.
Well, that's right. And you never, there's never a perfect time for anything. So, as I said, like get rid of that word perfection or perfect out of your vocabulary because it's not going to happen. You know, with
Doesn't
it.
serve you, doesn't help you.
No, it doesn't. And I'm just going to add on to what you said because I absolutely love it. And it is, I think the biggest thing is that we have to give ourselves permission. And sometimes it's just giving ourselves permission to give it a go and to see how you can do it. And, you know, as Marie Forleo's latest book, which I read just recently, like, everything is figure outable. Like, seriously,
Yeah,
you can work anything out and you are surprised at how resourceful you are when you go into business for yourself.
absolutely. Have a crack. It's one of my things is I say just have a crack, and you're always amazed at how resourceful you are and how talented you are,
Yeah.
and everything is figure outable. And I learned that when I was with Reed Exhibitions running big industry
Mm,
business to business events. And once I'd done a few, I realized, gosh, everything is, you can work it out. You can
mm,
find a solution to every problem that everyone comes
mm,
up with throughout those massive events. And I still apply that same principle to business is wait till you have the problem, then worry about it. A
mm.
lot of people are doing all this worrying about stuff that never even happens. So let's just deal with the shit as it occurs, and you'll find a solution to every problem as and when you need
Mm,
to.
mm.
Sleep, having sleepless nights is not the solution.
No, and honestly, when you can put that aside, when you are well rested, you get a different perspective and you actually go, well, why was I even worrying about that? Like, you know, it may not have been as big, or even if it was, you can still start to find those resources within yourself, or you start to think outside the box. So,
Yeah.
I I like thank you so much because I think this is going to be so crucial for anybody either thinking of starting a business or in business for themselves right now, and just to know that you know you are going to be constantly evolving and evolve yourself, evolve your brand, and keep yourself in check. Like do that SWOT analysis. Like that is perfect for people to you know to really get and to know where they're at and where they can continue to grow.
And be yourself.
Definitely, definitely. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to put all of your details down. So if anybody of our listeners wants to reach out to you, as I said, Katrena is an amazing business mentor and coach. You know, she's a speaker and also an author as well. So go and check out her website. All the details are below if you want to reach out. I want to thank everyone for joining us today on this episode of the Corporate Escapists TV show. I'm your host, Christine Innes. And if you want to reach out and to find out more about my coaching opportunities, all of our links are below. So live life with full of love and passion every single day. And thank you so much for joining us.
See you soon.